Hey guys, as promised, I'm going to be checking out the ultra high settings on Dead Trigger 2 on my Nexus 5. It does require a modified APK to get these settings. You can find that in the description. These are the same effects that are on the iPhone 5S and the Tegra 4 devices. So yeah, let's go ahead and check this out. So here we go. You'll notice we have the extra grass and water effects. You won't find those on the normal high settings on the official graphics level. I'm running FPS meter in the top right hand corner and system monitor in the top left hand corner to check for thermal throttling. So I pretty much noticed straight away that we're running at a lower frame rate than when we were on the high settings. That's pretty obvious, but don't forget these settings aren't optimized for the Snapdragon 800 in this device, and that is going to make a difference as well because it's only optimized for Tegra 4 devices on Android and iOS devices. So yeah, and again, don't forget we are at 1080p as well, a lot more pixels to push than the 640p iPhone 5S screen. Saying that, the frame rate is still pretty decent and definitely playable. You can see here we're pretty much ranging from around 28 to 35 mark. When you've got a lot of zombies on the screen, it pretty much drops into the 24s to 20 range, but generally the performance was relatively smooth. So after the first few minutes of gameplay here, you can see we're averaging 31 FPS, which is actually pretty decent. Now yes, it's not 60 FPS, but don't forget these settings aren't officially supported for this device. You can see there we did drop into the 18s, and that's when we kind of had to load a bit. When you're inside, you can see it's ranging from about 45 to 50 FPS. That's pretty obvious considering inside there isn't that much to render. It's when you get outside and there's a lot more zombies that the frame rate starts to take a little bit of a hit. And there's a good example of that here. You can see there's a fair few zombies on the screen and you've got the extra water effects on the floor, and you can see we've dipped down into the 20 FPS range. If you take a quick glance at the CPU monitor in the top left hand corner, you'll see that we're still running at 2.3 GHz, so there's no thermal throttling here. You'll also notice that it's only really ever using 2 cores, so it's a little bit frustrating because I'm pretty certain that if it fired up the other 2 cores, it probably would be able to handle this a lot easier. So it might be possible with a custom kernel that we can fire up those 2 cores and get even smoother gameplay. So just checking out this little bit of gameplay here, you can see that when nothing really is going on, it just has to render the effects on the map. You can see that we're in the kind of 40 to 45 FPS mark. When we start to get the zombies on the screen, this is when the FPS drops a little bit. You can see we're now kind of in the 28 to 30 range. So this makes me wonder if those other 2 cores being online would help here, because, you know, more zombies on the screen means more kind of physics, more having to render the movement. So I'm pretty sure it would help. So after a few more minutes of gameplay here, you can see that we're actually averaging 35 FPS. So we've actually gone up from what we had before. You'll notice the minimum FPS is 20, and that's the biggest thing I noticed while using these ultra settings. The minimum is a fair bit lower than what we had on the official high settings. So again, you've got a case for optimization because these settings haven't been optimized for this hardware or pretty much any hardware except for the Tegra 4. So if you're asking the question, can the Nexus 5 handle the ultra settings? Well, the answer is yes, it can. You know, it's definitely not a slideshow, it's easily playable. Most of the time you're around the 30 FPS mark. So if you really do want to use these ultra settings, then yes, you can use them. The major thing you're probably going to see is a few frame drops down into the 20 mark. You can see the minimum frame rate right now is 21, and that's probably the biggest thing you'll notice. Again, you've got a really good case here for optimization. I'm sure if the developers of the game actually optimized it to run on the Nexus 5, you would get a much higher frame rate because the Adreno 330 in this device is a beast. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Peace out.